What's up, amazing souls? Welcome to this. I always want to say Saturday night soul session because I'm so used to doing it with Recovery Soul Food. But this is something different. This is Healing Messages for the Week. I am your host, Reverend LC. I'm super excited to be here. Probably a little tired, a little more worn out than I should be. But I didn't want to miss another week. I missed last week. Yeah, I didn't want to do that again because I find as much fulfillment here as hopefully you do. So if you resonate with any of the message here, then I'll ask you to do all the cool things like share it out and like the video and make sure that you comment because I love intermingling with your energy. So please I'm open to comments here. I love to read comments live. I feel like that these messages don't even really kick off until there's a lot of energy in the room and people are engaged. So engage, engage, engage. Last video I told kind of a watered down, not really a watered down, but a very compacted overview of my story, which was entitled From Hell to Healing. And so I kind of want to just compound and build off of that a little bit this week, in that I want us to talk about addictions, their origins, some strategies that we can use that are living within our failures, which we touched on in that video as well. And if you haven't seen that, it's available on my YouTube channel is youtube.com at Recovery Soul Food. So it's there. And take a look at that because we talked a little bit about building strategies from your own past failures. And so I want to talk about that a little bit tonight. And and this theme that keeps coming up over and over and over in my awareness is that how we've what we do in our society is we swing the pendulums of things usually from one extreme to another. And so we have gone from a society that has really stigmatized substance addiction. Meanwhile, majority of human beings that we interact with every day are stuck in the very same loops of addictions. They're just not the substance, so they don't recognize them in that way. But we've gone from a place of being so harsh and so shameful and punishing towards, sorry guys, shameful and punishing towards substance addiction, that now we've swung to the pendulum so far that we're almost coddling our trauma and our triggers to the point that we're not allowing ourselves to grow. And this is very detrimental. It will keep us in the same loops, it will keep us in the same cycles, it will keep us stuck in the same pain if we coddle our recovery and we never let it get challenged. So those are the things that I really want to touch on tonight. I'm going to jump over to these comments. Now, normally I do my amazing book promos and things. I tell you about amazing resources in the beginning of the show. Tonight, I want to kind of wait till the end because it dawned on me. There's usually more people here at the end of our video than there is in the beginning. So y'all stick around and I'm going to introduce you to some amazing resources. I'm also going to introduce you or let you know what I'm reading now. I think that's very important. I always want to know what my mentors are studying and reading. I look at other people and I think that's a level of whatever success in business or success in life or happiness or healthiness or wholeness. And when I can see it and have a mentor in place, which I have many, I want to know what they're reading. What are they consuming? How can I too consume the things that are going to help me get where I want to be? So stick around to the end because I have some amazing resources to let you know about. All right. Well, let's see. All right, what's up, Pam? Thank you so much. Our sister Pamela Topchian, always so awesome in the chat. Our just 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 one of our warriors. Just one of our warriors. I thank you so much for being here. And anyone else that I cannot see in the comments, I want to tell you thank you for being here. Thank you for joining me. And bring your questions. Is there something that you want to ask? Is there something you want to know? Is there something that you're struggling with? How can this platform be of service to you in a way that's going to help you walk away from this feeling more prepared, feeling more inspired, more informed, and more motivated, because that's the goal and the point of this. Not just for me to show up every week and listen to myself talk. It is because I want it to have an effect. I want it to be something that you take away from here and it helps you go into this next week with some strategies. I don't know what's happening. My computer keeps giving me notices right where the comments are. What's up, Rhonda? My sister, my fam. I love you. Send my love out to the fam. So yeah, something. So in kind of just writing notes, inspired notes for tonight, I wrote this. Addiction will always have power over you if you coddle your recovery. See, from we can't hide from the addiction. And I had this slight conversation, and some of you are going to disagree with me, and that's okay. That's okay if we disagree. I want you to test it out a little bit. So I had a conversation with someone close to me today about we were talking about 12 steps and the different things and different parts of 12 steps that were both helpful and what maybe we didn't find so helpful. Now, again, your recovery journey is your recovery journey, and whatever helps you, helps you. But there's one thing that I take great caution with, and it is the powerlessness part of it. Because when we become so convinced that we are powerless, and I know that this is not what Bill W. meant by the admitting we are powerless. I understand what Bill W. actually meant and what the overall connotation of admitting we are powerless is. But the way that it is being translated and possibly used, it can slip over where the pendulum can swing so far that we begin to give it our power. We give powerlessness our power when that's what we truly come to believe about ourselves. Because this is what I know about you. Wherever you are in the journey, it doesn't matter if you're in the grips and the throes of it right now. What I know about you is you're a powerful creator. You are a powerful creation. And the power for you to recognize the origins of your addiction, because addictions are born in trauma. No way around it. It's why you can meet some people and so it reminds me so much, and I make this reference all the time. I watched this documentary a long time ago, I think while I was maybe in college, or it might be newer than that, but it was the daisy and the orchid. Daisies can grow in street crack, in the cracks of streets, in city streets, you can find a daisy. An orchid has to be very deeply nurtured. An orchid is very, you got to handle it with, kid gloves. You got to coddle it. You have to nurture it to grow. And it seems very easy. In this documentary, they were talking about studying children that came into these wards of the state, and they came in and they lived in these orphanages. And there was a good many of them that gave over into the addictions, escaping pain, because addiction is an attempt to solve a problem. Addiction's not the end all be all. It is the attempt to solve an internal problem. That's why we call it escapism. That's why we call it a coping mechanism, because that's what it is. It's not just that you love to get high. It's not that. At the point that we're talking about where addiction takes over, this substance addiction takes over, it's no longer about you just wanting to get high. You are attempting to solve a problem. And if we don't go deeper into what that original and origin problem is, then how will we ever know our power as it goes? How will we ever know our problem if we never look at what it is? If we coddle it and we keep it in this box that says, I am powerless over this, you've given it your power, because that means your power lives in the box of that. So, which means you're always looking over your shoulder for relapse, which means if you ever stop going to these meetings or whatever, and you're still within that realm of consciousness and you stop going to these meetings, what are you going to do? It will be what they say a matter of time before it overtakes you. So, what I'm interested here in this platform, in the recovery soul food realm, in my own life, is I want to know how to take my power back over this part of me, get to the very root cause of it, heal that, and move on with my life. Because what is a life if you're always worried about that one big financial loss or that one big loss of a person in your life that drives you over the edge to where you go back to this thing to attempt to solve a problem? Because what is it we do when we do relapse, man? We are attempting to solve an internal problem. So if we never know what those internal problems are, and we only look at counting days from not using, and we white knuckle through not using, and we give all of our power away, and we keep prophesying that we are an addict, we are an addict, an addict, we are an addict, we are an addict, we are an addict, then you tell me what happens. Now, maybe this isn't true for everybody, but this is what was true for me, and I have a great feeling that it's true for a lot of people. So when we look at the daisy and the orchid, the whole part of this documentary, it took so many kids from this orphanage and basically followed them for the next 10 years. And out of all of the numbers of these kids, there were only about 4 that actually grew where they were planted. Now it's scary to think about that there were 4 people out of, I think it was like 40. I think there were 2 groups of 20 or something like that. And they follow these people for 10 years as they're growing up in this orphanage. And there are a very small group that I become those daisies, the daisies that grow wherever they're planted, that have that ability to say, nope, I'm not going down this route. I'm going to do what it takes. I'm going to be self sufficient. And yet, there's another greater portion of the population that cannot understand their trauma. They cannot work through their trauma. And so, therefore, we start to see arrests and substance addictions and violent behavior and all of those things because, you know, in this documentary, we're talking about basically children and what happens with children. And so much of this, and it sounds cliche, say, oh, it's your childhood, it's born in your childhood, but it is. It is. Our foundations are created between the ages of 0 and 7. That's our root. That's our root chakra foundations. If you are into spiritual and energy centers, that is our root chakra foundation. Now we add to it as we go, but in those 0 to 7 years, you have observed, because you are a sponge. Realize you don't come here able to talk, you don't come here able to walk, you come here completely dependent upon another human being, which gives us a clue about connection. Many of us use out of loneliness. 2020 and this whole pandemic thing has made a lot of people confront a lot of loneliness. And we've seen through that, we saw a rise in relapse. We saw a rise. So it's an attempt. We're attempting to solve a problem. So there's no shame in being part of that whole of the orchid crowd. I was an orchid. I was a part of an orchid crowd because in my foundation being built in my foundation, my message had become, I am not wanted. Because what is it? Children take everything upon themselves. If something's going on with the family, with the finances, with whatever it is, if something's going on, children take that onto themselves. They have no other point of consciousness, but this must be my fault somehow. And so, as we're building those root and those foundations, and we're completely unconscious of those, as we begin to go into our second phases of life and we get up to the ages of, say, 12 to 13 to 14, many of us begin to experiment. I always called it the suitcase of my soul. That I had been through so much hurt and traumatic events by the time I say got to about, I don't know, even 11. I started binge drinking at 11. And that was the moment that I realized, oh, this will solve this problem. I don't have to hurt and ask myself, why me? I don't have to do none of that. If I do this, I don't have to think about all of this stuff because the suitcase of my soul had been already been so filled. It was so full that I had nothing left. And so we walk around as these raw nerves just filled with pain. And we're having compounded trauma upon trauma just coming down on us through life because now we're in a vibration of mirroring back to us what we feel like on the inside. So then again, we start seeing all of these different circumstances like we're just caught in a whirlwind of trauma, and it compounds and it compounds and it compounds. And I don't know about you guys, but I didn't grow up in a family or an environment where you were really a an open place for us to share about how all of this is affecting us. In fact, that just wasn't even a thought. It wasn't a place where you just go, "Oh, let me share with you." But that wasn't it. I watched everybody in my family just moving on with life. Therefore, I tried to move on with life. And I just could not continue to push pain down. And it was just continuing to happen to me. So, when I was introduced to any type of substance that would help me solve that for at least a little while, I was all in. All in. And there's no shame in being that orchid person. It just is. It's just what it is. But there comes a time and a moment that we have to recognize what addiction is. And the only way to get to a place of solving this and healing through all of this is to start to recognize its origin. Because we've talked about this many, many, many times. As you hear the story about, or let your imagination think about the monster in the closet, as long as it's dark and you keep the door closed, the monster grows in size, in strength, in purpose. But the moment you turn the light on and you look at it, you just open it up the door, turn the light on, and say, I'm going to look at you. Often, that often in and of itself brings you to a place of, oh, man, this isn't as big or as ugly or as as I thought. And so a lot of times what addiction recovery is asking you to do in for addiction is to look at what is the problem you're trying to solve. Forget counting days. And I'm not saying that's not worth it, okay? I'm not saying that we've got to celebrate the things, we've got to have little things, but I think at the deeper level, if you keep counting days and then keep getting messed up and have to recount and you keep going through this cycle, then something about it ain't working and it's time to change that. Because you got to look at exactly what we're talking about. What is the problem you are trying to solve? What are you afraid of? What is hurting you so bad that you have to reach outside of you and bring in whatever it is, substance, social media, I don't care, work, money, relationships, whatever it is. Because we are walking around in a society that is addicted that doesn't even know it, or at least won't admit it. They're not even at step one. They treat us in the substance community bad because it helps people punch down on somebody and they get to look at us and go, well, I'm not sleeping on a park bench. Well, I'm not homeless. Well, I haven't left my family. Or all the things that they say that we use as a society to gauge our superiority. we in the substance addiction recovery space understand that we lead the charge because they're naive to think that this is not happening to them in the same ways. And so we lead the charge by figuring out what we're trying to solve. When you flip the light on the issue of what you are trying to solve through the using, what is the fear? I've known people that have come out of jail, and let's say they had a prison stretch or whatever. I did it myself. Came out of jail, you've made all of these you've made all of this progress while you were there. I don't know, you've gotten some 12-step in you. You've gotten some maybe religion or spirituality. You've gotten all this stuff in you. You've got a great plan, a great intention. You come out, life actually starts going well, and then it seems like just out of nowhere, you can't handle it. You get feeling a little jumpy and a little rabbity in you. Either the right friend comes along or you go to them, and all of a sudden, boom, you're back out, you're back at it, and the shame loop starts again. It says, oh, I just can't get this. What's wrong with me? Da da da. All the stuff that we do when we just count days, start the counter over, count days, start the counter over, because we think that all of these things external to us are going to make us happy. If I get the family, if I get the job, these are all the things that I need to do, and I just got to make the choice not to use. And if I make the choice not to use, everything's going to be okay. And yet, we've never gone any deeper than that. We're still buying what society tells us about ourselves, which is addiction is a choice, using is a choice, and you're just making a choice. Versus you are trying to solve a problem. Now, for this person in this scenario, they're going to keep going and tripping up and going back. They'll end up going back to prison, and then they'll do it again, and they'll come back to prison, and they'll do it again. And the hope is that they run up on some type of information, and that they're tired of this cycle, and they decide, I'm going to look for the root cause. I'm going to look for the root issues, because if not, what ends up happening is in the end, we lose them. We lose them. If we never open up conversations like this, if we never open up information like this, and we never actually have this available so that it clicks in to somebody and gives them something to now open the door to and look at, if we never do that, and we just keep talking about the days and the days and the count the days and the cycle that repeats and repeats and repeats, and they feel so stuck and beat down and tired of fighting that they just give in, this is what powerlessness is. They just give in, then many times we lose them. Whether it's to overdose, whether it's to some kind of tragic accident in the street, whether it's some kind of health problem that's been brought on by years of body abuse. Every one of us has an origin story. Every one of us has a place that this wound began. Now, we don't gauge the size of wounds, but if we coddle that wound and we don't allow ourselves to get triggered, and we click off of something the moment that it kind of pushes our belief system a little bit, or it challenges our current narrative, and we just push back and we coddle it, and we never let anything come in, that gives it a trigger. Because, the worst thing we can do if you're on a healing journey, not just a counting days journey, a healing journey, the worst thing we can do is coddle our triggers. Now, again, you got to gauge where you are. You got to gauge what you're ready for. But we can't not be triggered. And I'm afraid with some of the things that we have because we've done this as a society. We have swung the pendulum, like I said in the beginning. We have a tendency in our society to swing these pendulums from bad to way too much, and then it goes back again, and eventually it'll balance out. And when it balances out in the substance addiction recovery aspect, it comes into words like integration. It comes into words like trauma. Michelle says we all have trauma. You're damn right we do. Every single one of us. Whether we want to flip the light on it or not, we got it. You don't get to live in the world, especially now. If you didn't think you had any trauma before 2019 and 2020, okay, probably not true, but you know you got it now because we all have it from all of that. You don't have your basically your rights taken away, you're shut down in loneliness, you're away from your family, people are dying, fear, fear, fear. You don't get to come out of that without trauma because nobody in the midst of it's talking about, well, how do we work through this? That's why I kept telling you the recovery community leads the charge because this is stuff we got to work through every day. I don't mean in just the sense of not using. I don't work on any more not wanting to use any. That's, it's just that's not at the forefront of my healing journey now. It used to be. Now I'm working on deeper stuff. Now I'm working on those origins. Now I'm going back and I'm working on seeing, flipping the light on some of those places. I invite being triggered. I invite those things. I want to sit there and see, you know, if this has validity. Does this trigger, am I being triggered in a way that is to help me, or ultimately is it going to harm me? I have an amazing friend who's got a book that he's written, The Tao Te Ching, Martin John Garcia, that's part of our conversations. That is part of our conversations. And I get to have this friendship with him where he will very easily point out where maybe I might be deceiving myself, or he will point out something that he sees an even deeper link to than maybe I've even got awareness of. And sometimes it can be very, very triggering. You can be tempted to get angry. But the difference is I know he's there in love. So I'm not saying that we need to do this activity with just any old body. Don't set yourself up to be in a kind of an abusive situation. But I know he's there because I have made my goals to him for my life. We're kind of walking the same path in a lot of ways, like that we're here for like ultimate healing and integration of all of it, not the denial of any of it, but how do we see this, integrate it, work through it, and create a life that we love? And so I invite those moments with him because my goal is to go deeper. And so I ask you, if you're in a space right now of just counting days of sobriety and you're feeling like you're just not winning the race, then I ask you to go deeper and ask yourself this one question. Start right here. And I've redundantly said it tonight in this video. What is the problem you're trying to solve by using? You don't have to sit down and answer it and write a list. If you ask that out with an earnest heart, some people call it prayer, some people just call it speaking, whatever it is to you. But if you will ask that out with an earnest heart and an openness to see and receive, then things will start coming up. And a lot of times they will come up in memories. And you may out of the blue be hit by something that happened to you when you were 3. Try not to recoil from this. Don't recoil from it and try to shut it down, because that's part of the answer to your asking. And sometimes these things don't come to us super quick when we ask the question. So it may take us a little bit to bring it back and go, "Oh, I asked for that." The more you do this and the more open you become to knowing who you are and how you work at a mechanical core level, the more you do that, the quicker the answers show up. The quicker that you ask and the evidence, the manifestation shows up in your reality. So just know that it's kind of a practice like everything else. But be open. And if you're stuck in that loop right now, I just want to give you some encouragement. There's a way out. There is a way out. You're not a failure. You're not so far gone. Addiction doesn't have you so tightly that you can't come out. I promise you, from wherever you are in this moment right now, you can begin to come out. You can climb out. You just gotta find a tribe that you resonate with, asking the deeper questions, and that can help guide you. Find a mentor. Find a sponsor. Find whoever it is. Find many virtual mentors, people that have the life that you feel resonance with, people that inspire you, and find inspiration in your day, no matter what. It has taken me a long time to be in a space where I can look back over my journey and be inspired by myself. Because I never thought for 1 second that I could be the person that I am today. And I have such a great imagination and intention for who I am becoming, and I'm so excited about that. For the majority of my life, I was not excited about anything. Every new day was just another day of torture. And if you're in that space where you feel like you're in this constant torture, then look me in the eyes. I've been there and I understand and I get it. But there is light within you. There is light and there's help in the world. You may have to scratch and claw to find it, but it's there. And you just keep that powerful intention and you may run up into somebody at a bus stop. You don't know where this is going to take place, but have an earnest heart and know you're worth fighting for. You are worth fighting for. Your light, your life is important in the world right now, no matter what external circumstances of the world may be telling you. You have a gift to give. Now, your purpose is your healing journey here. Your gifts are usually born out of that purpose. And so you have a gift to give here. And it doesn't have to look like somebody else's gift. But you got to stay here. We got to keep you here so that we can cultivate and let you discover what those gifts are and your path to give them out. And so for that, hang on. Hang on. Just keep putting one foot in front of the other, doing the very best you can. Study your past failures and devise strategies on how you're going to reset this. Be willing to look and ask, what is the problem I'm trying to solve here? And for the love of God, please understand that when you are continuously powerless over this, you are setting it in a box and you are making it your power. Now, once again, I'm going to say, I understand what Bill W. meant by this whole entire concept, but when that was my experience, it it was not translated in the way that Bill W. did. Now, I have a beautiful video Oh gosh, of course I've forgotten her name. How can I forget her name? I'm doing this a lot lately. Anyway, there's a video on my YouTube channel with she wrote higher and friendly powers. And it is on the philosopher William James, who that was the inspiration for Bill W. to create the 12 steps. But I want you to be in a place, and it's a great video. It's a great book. I urge you to get it and watch it if you're, struggling with some of the philosophy there. But this is the thing. You'll never heal if you coddle that addiction. You'll never heal if you'll never let yourself be triggered. And again, we live in a society that is tiptoeing around triggers. And these things make you stronger. They make you better. They introduce you to you, and you are worth being introduced to. Okay? I hope some of this made sense. I hope that you got something from it. If you did, please let me know. Let me know what it was. Let me know where you are. What is it? What are your biggest struggles? I want to hear from people that are brand new in recovery. I want to hear from people that have got years in recovery. I want to hear from a little bit of everybody. Tell me where you are, because I can't, I want to give to you what it is that you can actually resonate with, and something that you can actually put into power and play in your life. You are not powerless. You are trying to solve a problem. What is the problem? Flip the lights on. Triggers are your teachers. That's right. The triggers are your teachers, as Pamela Topchian wrote in the comments here. Your triggers are your teachers. Allow yourself to be triggered to the point that you feel safe doing so. Make sure that you have some type of support system. Find a mentor, find a sponsor, whatever it is, find somebody that can help be a guide for you. I like to call them guides, and I have many of them. And one of them is my friend Pamela Topchian, who wrote this amazing book. I didn't come this far to only come this far. You can pick that up on Amazon.com/ Pamela Topchian. She is one of our greatest heroes in this community. She is such an amazing human being. She is a substance recovery ally, having worked in the field herself as a nurse, having had family members that have gone through those, substance addictions. And this is just an amazing book. She's made it affordable for almost everyone. So get your copy today. Get it right there at Amazon. You can also pick up her newest book, Behind the Mask, Gloves, and Scrubs: One Nurse's Journey. This is such an, I love this book as well. I love the way Pamela writes. I love her ability to tell her life story. And I love her ability to bring her philosophy home and what it all means to her and how it translates in the world. So I love that. Go to Amazon.com/ Pamela Topchian. And also, she has amazing. So Pamela is one of the greatest hypnotherapists, I think, to me, walking the planet right now. And so she also has a YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/ at Pamela Topchian, and you can get her. She uploads different parts of her story. She uploads different podcast appearances, and best of all, she uploads a lot of hypnosis and meditations, and just a lot of ways to start to deal with stress, which I'm going to have to partake more of, because I don't know what's wrong with me. Getting some high blood pressure and stuff. Been stressing out a little too much. So I've got to take my own advice too. Um, and get back into my practices and bring in some new stuff. So I'll be partaking of that, which I do every night. So make sure that you connect with Pamela Topchian. You can also get this amazing little pocket book, this little amazing Tao Te Ching, a new English version by my good friend and my brother Martin John Garcia. This is all 81 verses of the Tao Te Ching, with his amazing lived interpretation, his philosophy around it, and it's just beautiful. Ah, and because I just opened it up to page 78, well, you can get that at martinjohn.com. But I just opened this up to page 78. So we're going to read verse 78 together here right now tonight, and I'm going to leave you with this. So, the title of verse 78 is Living in a Damaged State. Air and water are the softest things we know, causing no damage to those that live within them, yet both erode the hard or rigid in their path. The soft and flexible will always overcome, while the hard and rigid eventually collapse. Ordinary men are well aware of this. However, they prefer conspicuous outcomes. Conspicuous outcomes. No. Yeah, I think so. Thus they align with rigid hardness. It stands firm for a time, but does not last. Therefore, the Master teaches us that we can live amongst things that damage without being damaged by them. Don't coddle them triggers. You hear me? Stop coddling those triggers. You gotta be triggered. You gotta get your roots strong. You've gotta show yourself who you are. And if you just stay rigidly in counting days in this thing, you're going to keep finding that erosion. You're going to keep being too rigid, and you're going to keep getting knocked down and have to start all over. And the cycle's going to start all over. Find out, what's your root cause? What problem are you trying to solve? I love you guys so, so much. I hope you have an amazing, amazing week. You know, that's all I can say. I love you guys, and I appreciate you allowing me to stay here. Please, if you had any resonance in this, again, please make your comment. Tell me where you are. Tell me how we can help. What do you need in your recovery journey that we could possibly bring to you? Even if I got to bring on a guest, if I got to go find it and bring it here, let me know where you are. Let me know what you need, and just know that I love you. All right, guys. Until next week, hopefully, let's hope I can be here next week. But until then, just know that I love you. And no matter where you are in your world, you can get up from your give up and you can create a life you love. All right, y'all. I'll see you next time. Bye.